Thank you, Vijay. Pastor Dwayne Adams will come forward to deliver the invocation. Please remain standing.
Let us pray. Heavenly Father, Lord God Almighty, we thank you, Lord, for our dear island of Anguilla. Lord, we thank you for our school system, the education system. We thank you for the children therein, dear Lord, and we thank you for this evening, this event, dear Lord. We thank you for the Anguilla Community College and giving them the foresight to organize such an evening, dear Lord, where children may come, dear Lord, and develop a new skill, display a new talent. Lord, we know that the word comes from you. And so we thank you, dear Lord, for the word who is your Son, Jesus Christ. We thank you for the word of truth, which is the Holy Bible. And Lord, we thank you for the words that you give us, dear Lord, in language, so that we may express our ideas, dear Lord, and defend our beliefs, our positions. So, Father, we ask you to strengthen the children who are partaking this evening and throughout the week, dear Lord. We ask that you would give them courage without pride, dear Lord. Bravery, dear Lord, without arrogance. Be with them, strengthen them, and help them to present in a way, dear Lord, that makes us all proud of them. These things we ask, and your blessings on the remainder of this evening. In the name of your Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Thank you. You may be seated. Honorable Premier Dr. Ellis Lorenzo Webster, Honorable Minister of Social Development and Education, Ms. Deanne Kentish Rogers, Honorable Leader of the Opposition, Mrs. Cora Richardson Hodge, and other members of the Parliamentary Opposition, Honorable Cardigan Connor, and Honorable Shelia Rogers Webster, Permanent Secretary, Social Development and Education, Dr. Bonnie Richardson Lake, Chair of the Anguilla Community College Board of Governors, Dr. Ronald Harrigan, President of the Anguilla Community College, Dr. Kenneth Williams, Education Officers, Country Manager, Sol Anguilla, Mr. Dexter Ward, principals, teachers, students, judges, all invited guests, good evening. And welcome to the first Inter-Primary Schools Debating Championship organized by the Anguilla Community College in collaboration with the Department of Education. This championship forms a major part of College Week 2022, which is being celebrated this week under the theme, ACC, Investing in the Future of Our Community. The story behind tonight's reality can be summed up in 3 simple words: resilience, persistence, diligence. For it was some 2 years ago when a small committee comprising members of the curriculum unit of the Department of Education and the Academics Division of the ACC met to set the ball in motion for the staging of this contest. And then COVID happened, resulting in at least 2 postponements. However, given the level of commitment from our platinum sponsor, Sol Anguilla, from the very onset, and given the value of the exercise to the academic and personal development of our students, and given the enthusiasm that was demonstrated among schools at the very beginning, we felt that it was worth pursuing. And so, despite the many challenges encountered along the way, we are very pleased that the championships have come to fruition. Within the last year, we have invested much time, money, effort to prepare for this event. Aside from the many planning meetings, each of the 6 public primary schools was assigned a debate coach to help prepare students. And then, in August of this year, a formal debate camp was held for all the potential debaters to equip them with the knowledge, skills, and dispositions that are necessary for effective debating. To this end, students were prepared on a range of topics, including the structure of a debate, how a debate is organized, and debate techniques/presentation skills. Some 40 students from across the primary schools attended the week-long camp. We express appreciation to all who have helped to make this camp a reality and tonight, but I will reserve the bigger thank yous for the end of the championships. I wish to make it clear that every child participating in this series stands to benefit. This championship, therefore, goes well beyond competition, well beyond winning. Among other things, it aims to, 1, foster students' interest in issues that affect them. 2, develop students' critical thinking, research, written and oral communication skills. And 3, promote school pride. Every topic to be addressed in this series is within the students' experience and impacts them one way or the other. I trust that this experience will linger with them for the rest of their lives. And now, I wish every team the very, very best. I'm going to ask you to give all of our debaters a rousing round of applause. Thank you. I wish at this point to apologize for the absence of the Chief Education Officer, Mr. Bren Romney, who could not make it tonight due to illness. Apologies also for the Education Officer Primary, Mistress Susan Smith, who is overseas at the moment. I will move on and call on Dr. Ronald Harrigan, Chairman, ACC Board of Governors, to bring greetings on behalf of the Board of Governors. Please welcome Dr. Harrigan.
Good evening. Protocol having already been established, I bring you greetings on behalf of the ACC Board of Governors. We are delighted to see this event taking place. To see the young ones, the teams put together in this format at the time when there's so many things happening around us that some people term negative. But here we are being in a place where students, young students like yourselves, will be debating and reflecting to the Anguilla community your skills. Okay? The Board of Governors here at ACC, we are pleased that our own Dr. Quealy and the faculty your faculty have taken the opportunity and the time to teach you debating skills. I remember about 20 years ago, I was reminded that I was here at a debate where UVI came up to Anguilla to debate, to participate in a debate program right at the Anglican Church auditorium. And here we are today teaching your age group the basic skills about debating, which will take you a long way in the future. I want to congratulate you for taking this step, okay? On behalf of the board, we are here to support you throughout your endeavor. And one of these days, and we looking forward to seeing one of you on our campus being part of our debate team. So we're looking forward to that. I want to wish you, all the teams, the best. And we're looking forward to being at all your events as much as we can and cheering you on. Congratulations once again, and may the best team win.
Thank you, Dr. Harrigan. I just want to take this opportunity to recognize other members of the Board of Governors. I see our Deputy Chair here. I see Mr. Skellicky and Ms. Leah Hughes. Yes. Thank you so much for gracing us with your presence. At this point in time, I call on Mr. Dexter Ward, the country manager for SOL, the platinum sponsor for this debating series, to deliver brief remarks. Please welcome Mr. Ward.
Can I move this? Just right here. Good evening, everyone. I have to stand up because I can't stand up. It can't move. My name is Dexter Ward, and I'm the country manager of Salt Petroleum Anguilla. Some months ago, I was contacted by a very determined Dr. Michelle Creeley to inquire if Salt would be interested in participating with the Anguilla Community College to bring this wonderful event to life. It immediately sparked my interest, as I believe it was a worthwhile initiative, and despite challenging times, I felt it was a corporate social responsibility that needed to be undertaken. I contacted the SAL head office in Barbados and told them about the idea to gain approval for the funding. Anguilla, though small in size, it is loaded with talent in many areas, from education to culinary arts, to music, to art, to fishing. The list goes on and on. I see it every day. Events such as this competition help us to cultivate, develop critical thinking amongst the youth from a young age, which undoubtedly prepare them to lead Anguilla into the future. I was able to pay a brief visit to the debate camp over the summer, where participants were preparing, and I was thoroughly impressed by the topics as well as the deliveries of the arguments. What we are seeing here today, well, this evening at this event, is months of hard work by the administration putting this event together to ensure that the participants are readily prepared to come out and represent their respective schools, communities, and their families to the best of their abilities. Over the next few days, I believe we will be treated to some thought-provoking discussions from the participants, and they will make the case to not only me, but to other businesses and the community on why this event should be held annually. I want to thank everyone for coming out this evening to show your support for these brave and intelligent young minds. Thank you very much.
I'm just going to ask you to give our sponsor another round of applause. They have invested heavily in us. Mr. Ward did not think twice when I approached him about sponsorship. And I must also state that Sol Anguilla has already committed to sponsor this event annually. So give them another round of applause for such commitment. At this point, I will call on the Honorable Minister of Social Development, Cultural Affairs, Gender Affairs, Education and Library Services, Ms. Deanne Kentish-Rogers, to deliver her remarks and also declare the competition officially open.
I'll figure it out. Good evening, everyone. I expect to hear a lot of good evening from our debaters. Good evening, everyone. All right. It's a pleasure to be here this evening to open the inaugural ACC Inter-Primary Debating Championships in partnership with the Department of Education and with the Platinum sponsor Sol Petroleum. It is very fitting that for the start of this year's College Week, we have it under the theme, Investing in the Future of Our Community. And we begin this evening with a conversation with our future. Investing in challenging our students' intellectual capacities through debate is critical to developing a healthy tolerance for disagreement, especially in a global environment where disagreement is often polarizing. Developing critical thought and creativity. I remember sitting where you are, I was gonna say not many years ago, but it's about 11 years ago now, where my coaches, Dr. Michelle Quealy, Pastor Adams, challenged me to dig deep and face my fear of this very podium that I stand in front of. And I can only imagine that since you're starting so much earlier than me, you'll be very sharp debaters for the annual Literary Leeward Islands Debating Competition that's coming up very soon. I don't know if any of you have ever watched the movie The Great Debaters. Any hands? Wow. Wow. Okay, that's a challenge for the next debating competition. All of these students need to watch The Great Debaters. And in that story, there's Denzel Douglas, who's the team coach. And I always think of Dr. Michelle Quealy and Mr. Pastor Adams as the Denzel Washington to my Johnny Smollett. And in this movie, Denzel had a practice that he had with his debaters. And I'll act it out for you right now. He said, "Who is the judge?" And they responded, "The judge is God." Why is he God? Because he decides who wins or loses, not my opponent. He asked, "Who is your opponent?" They responded, "He does not exist." Why does he not exist? And they said, "Because he is a mere dissenting voice of the truth I speak." So tonight, young debaters, I encourage you not to be disheartened or intimidated. Believe in the truth that you speak. Exercise curiosity and creativity, and approach this podium unafraid. And with that, I now declare the inaugural ACC Inter-Primary Debating Competition open.
Thank you, Minister, for your words of wisdom and encouragement to our debaters, our upcoming representatives for Anguilla on the regional scene. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I will now introduce to you the participating teams. You had a glance at them while they were filing up, but as I call their names, I am going to ask the debaters for each school just to come forward, and they're going to stand and face you, and we're going to give them a round of applause for their effort, their energy, their enthusiasm, and everything that they would have put in to be here tonight. In alphabetical order, I invite Team Alwyn Allison Richardson Primary School. Team Alwyn Allison Richardson Primary, you can come forward, turn around, face your audience. Let's give it up for Team Alwyn Allison Richardson. Thank you. You may remain there. Yes. We welcome Team Morris Vanterpool Primary School. Let's give it up for Morris Vanterpool Primary School. And now let's welcome Team Aurelia Kelly Primary School. Wow. Team Aurelia Kelly Primary School. Next up is Team Valley Primary. Let's welcome Team Valley Primary. There goes Valley Primary. And finally, Team Vivian Vanterpool Primary School. Let's welcome Team Vivian Vanterpool Primary School. Aren't they all looking smart? They have come prepared, ready for the task at hand. Ladies and gentlemen, our future leaders, our future LIDC representatives, Team Alwyn Allison Richardson Primary, Team Morris Vanterpool, Team Aurelia Kelly, Team Valley Primary, and the Team Vivian Vanterpool Primary School. Another round of applause for our debaters. We have 5 of the 6 public primary schools here represented. Thank you so much. Well done, students. Well done. And I wish you the very, very best. You may take your seats. And that brings us to the end of our brief opening ceremony. We are just about ready to get into debate 1. My task is ended, and I will hand you over to into the capable hands of tonight's moderator. Mistress Dana Connor has been a teacher for the past 10 years. She started her teaching career at the Alwyn Allison Primary School. Upon obtaining her Bachelor of Arts in Literatures in English with education, she resumed teaching at the Albina Lake Hodge Comprehensive School, where she currently teaches English, Communication Studies, and Literature. Occasionally, Mistress Connor teaches at the Anguilla Community College and the Comprehensive Learning Center. Mistress Connor is also a Sunday school teacher and youth leader at her church. From a young age, she has had a deep love for debating. She was part of debating clubs and competitions from primary school to university and went on to become a writer and coach for Anguillan teams in the Leeward Island debating competition. Mrs. Connor is passionate about education and youth work. In her spare time, she enjoys reading, movies, and siestas. Please welcome our moderator, Mistress Dana Connor.
Good evening. All right, good evening, everyone. I will begin by introducing the rules that govern the conduct of tonight's debate. I know you can't wait any longer, so I'm going to get straight into it. So the debating team. For the purpose of this debate, a debater may be any full-time primary school student from grades 4 to 6. The team for each debate will comprise 2 persons, a leader and a seconder. The structure or format of debates. Tonight's debate will take the form of standard debates, but with slight alterations to suit the age and experience of primary school students. The debate has 2 rounds. Round 1, which is the prepared presentations, and round 2, the rebuttals. Please note that the following rules govern each round. Round 1, prepared presentations. Number 1, the leader of the proposition shall present his or her argument for a maximum of 8 minutes. The leader of the opposition shall then make his or her argument for a maximum of 8 minutes. 2, the second speaker of the proposition shall present his or her argument for a maximum of 6 minutes, and the second speaker of the opposition shall then present his or her argument for a maximum of 6 minutes. 3, a warning signal will be given at the end of the speaker's allotted times. However, 3 points per speaker will be deducted from the overall score if speakers go beyond 8 minutes and 30 seconds in the case of the first speaker, and 6 minutes and 30 seconds in the case of the second speaker. The times for each speaker will be given at the end of their presentations. 4, at the end of round 1, teams will be given 5 minutes to discuss and organize their rebuttal. Audience, you will be required to remain absolutely quiet during this time period. Round 2, rebuttals. 1, each team will be asked to identify 2 points from their opponent's argument that they do not agree with and present reasons for their position. A maximum of 2 minutes are allotted for this. Note, any member of the team, leader or seconder, will be allowed to rebut on the team's behalf. 2, a warning signal will be given at the end of the speaker's allotted times. However, 3 points per speaker will be deducted from the overall score if speakers go beyond 2 minutes and 30 seconds. 3, the times for each speaker will be given at the end of their presentations. Please note that at the end of the debates, the judges will retire for deliberations. The moot for tonight's debate is, the national tests of standards have outlived their usefulness. I'll repeat, the national tests of standards have outlived their usefulness. Proposing this moot is the Valley Primary School. I welcome to the stage the leader for this team, Jaden Reese, and his seconder is Amaya Reed. Please welcome them on stage. Opposing the moot is the Aurelia Kelly Primary School. Their leader is Miss Ebony Hodge, and her seconder is Miss Jandayi Linton. Please welcome them on stage. We welcome our timekeeper for tonight, Miss Shauna Richardson, to take her place. Before we get into our debates, please allow me to introduce tonight's judges. Oh, you may take your seat, sorry. Mr. Stanley Reed is the principal in his legal and consultancy practice, SER Legal and Consultancy Services. He assumed this role in July 2016. In this capacity, Mr. Reed responds to the needs of clients in the roles of solicitor, barrister, notary public, and mediator. Prior to July 2016, Mr. Reed served in many positions in the Anguilla Public Service during a tenure spanning 3 decades. These positions include Assistant Customs Officer, Uncertificated Teacher, Crown Counsel, Senior Crown Counsel, Permanent Secretary, and Deputy Governor. As Deputy Governor, Mr. Reed was responsible for managing the Anguilla Public Service. He has also acted as Magistrate, Attorney General, and Governor of Anguilla. In 2013, Mr. Reed was awarded the title of Officer of the Most Excellent Order of the British Empire, OBE. Mr. Reed continues to serve in the Anguilla Public Service as a part-time graduate teacher. He contributes to individual, national, and regional development through his appointments to local and regional bodies, including the University of the West Indies Open Campus Council. Ladies and gentlemen, help me to welcome our first judge for this evening, Mr. Stanley Reed. Mrs. Ingrid Lake, an educator by profession, commenced her teaching career at the elementary level. She was then transferred to the secondary school, where she specialized in the teaching of history and served in many managerial positions. Mrs. Lake piloted the Caribbean Examination Council, CXC, Caribbean Advanced Proficiency Examination, CAPE, history program, and served as a CXC history subject panelist for the Caribbean Secondary Examination Certificate, CSEC. In addition to her teaching, Mrs. Lake was and is still actively involved in the life of her church and serves in many capacities. She retired as principal of the Albina Lake Hodge Comprehensive School in 2015. In September, she returned to the classroom, substituting for someone on study leave. Again, I ask you to put your hands together for our next judge, Mrs. Ingrid Lake. Dr. Timothy Hodge. Dr. Hodge has a BA, summa cum laude, in Business Administration, Finance from the University of the Virgin Islands, an MBA from the University of the West Indies, a graduate certificate in Creativity Studies from the State University of New York College at Buffalo, and a PhD in Creative Leadership for Innovation and Change from UVI. He was the Anguilla Social Security System's first employee in 1981 and was its director for 35 years until his recent retirement. He has served as coordinator of Sub-Region 4 of the Inter-American Conference on Social Security, CISS, representing the USA, Canada, and the English and Dutch-speaking Caribbean. Vice Chairman of the Technical Commission on Organization, Management and Innovation of the International Social Security Association, and Vice Chairman of the Eastern Caribbean Home Mortgage Bank. He has served on boards of several national organizations, including the Anguilla National Trust, the Constitutional and Electoral Reform Committee, the National Bank of Anguilla, the Health Authority Project Board, the Public Service Pension Fund, and the Anguilla Youth Business Foundation. He is an executive officer of the Anguilla Gideons Bible Distributors, the Anguilla Archaeological and Historical Society, and the Anguilla Genealogical Society. He is an award-winning poet, a playwright and actor, historian, writer, church leader, and genealogist. Dr. Timothy Hodge. Tonight's best speaker is Ms. Susan Hodge, an English-born Anguillian and has worked in various positions in the Anguilla Public Service for more than 30 years. She currently holds the post of Program Officer in the Department of Disaster Management since its inception in October 2005. She's a graduate of the University of the West Indies Challenge Program and University of, now, you know those British places with the "sher" at the end? I'm not gonna try to pronounce that. I think I slipped over that when I was reading it over, so, A certified business continuity manager, UNICEF Return to Happiness trainer, and a member of the International Association of Emergency Managers. A trade unionist from her youth, Susan is currently serves as president of the Anguilla Civil Service Association and is serving her second term as a member of the Public Service Pension Fund Board, having served as a member of the Transition Committee from non-contributory to contributory pension fund. A believer in lifelong learning, Susan has never let the grass grow under her feet. After winning Anguilla's first Secretary of the Year competition, she went on to win the Caribbean Secretary of the Year in 1996 to 1998. An active community volunteer in many spheres, Susan is a distinguished Toastmaster and has achieved the highest communication award from Toastmasters International, Advanced Communicator Gold, and has held a myriad of leadership positions in many local, regional, and international organizations. Please help me welcome Miss Susan Hodge, our best speaker for tonight. We're soon there, people. Before I allow our debaters to proceed, I wish to share with you the criteria for tonight's debates. Outline structure. Let me start over again. On the soundness of points, for a total of 25 points, There is outline structure, 5 points. Sound argument, 10 points. Adequate reference and supporting, 5 points. And coherence, 5 points. Under logical development for a total of 10 points. There's the opening statement was clear and engaging, 2 points. Clearly defined moot and keywords, 3 points. Clear path from premise to conclusion, 3 points. Effective concluding statement, 2 points. Audibility and clarity for a total of 10 points. There is fluency, 3 points. Diction and articulation, 3 points. Voice modulation and control, 4 points. Posture and personality, 10 points. There is charismatic delivery, 4 points. Body language, posture, and eye contact, 3 points. Command of audience's attention and the ability to keep the audience engaged, 3 points. There's also the command of material for a total of 10 points. Grammar usage and appropriate vocabulary, 4 points. Expression and sentence structure, 3 points. Pronunciation, 3 points. For a total of a possible total of 65 points for each debate. For the rebuttal, the main category, an analysis of debate, ability to identify 2 key arguments from the opposing side, 5 points, shows understanding of opponent's argument and effective analysis, 5 points. The ability to refute, soundness of counter-argument, 4 points. Convincing and confident, 3 points, for a possible total of 7 points. And spontaneity is 3 points. For that section, the total possible amount is 25 points, and with the debates, that serves as a grand total of 90 points. Soon there, I promise you. Last thing, best speaker and overall best speaker criteria. Audibility and clarity, 15 points. Articulation, 15 points. Voice modulation, 10 points. Command of material, 10 points. Persuasiveness, 10 points. Fluency is also 10 points. Eye contact, 5 points. Body language, 5 points, for a possible total of 80 points. Note that the rebuttal is not to be considered when judging the best speaker. For the overall best speaker, there are 2 main criteria. 1, only the winners of best speaker for each debate qualify for this award. And 2, it is not necessary for a debater to have debated more than once or to be on a winning team to qualify for this honor. And now, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, we're about to begin. And so we invite our first speaker of the proposition, Mr. Jaden Reese, to present his argument.
Moderator, lawn judges, esteemed opponents, listening audience, good evening. I lead the charge, along with the support of my able partner in proposing tonight's moot, which states the National Test of Standards has outlived its usefulness. Moderator, to avoid muddying the waters in presenting our argument, please allow me to define the key terms of this moot. Gishard 2015 quotes Paul 1998 to define national test of standards as, quote, a diagnostic tool used to evaluate students' performance, the results of which guides teachers on which areas students have difficulty mastering. It is also worthy to note that Gishard also identified it as, quote, a high-stakes examination. The Cambridge Dictionary defines the phrase outlive its usefulness as, quote, to no longer be useful. Dictionary.com provides us with this definition of the term usefulness, quote, advantageous, helpful, or of good effect. Based on these definitions, moderator, the MOOC can be rewarded like this. The National Test of Standards, a high-stakes examination used to evaluate students' performance, is no longer advantageous, helpful, or of good effect. In order to support this assertion, my partner and I will discuss the impact of the National Test of Standards in its current and recent practical use, and discuss the impact of the Test of Standards on the health and development of students in relation to preparations for the exams. The National Test of Standards assesses students in grade 3, 5, and 6 at the primary level in Anguilla, with grade 6 results helping to determine what band students will go into at the start of secondary school. These standardized exams have not taken place since 2019 due to the COVID-19 pandemic. And so, moderator, unfortunately, none of us on stage tonight can speak from personal experience. Instead, we rely on the research done, the experience of others, and our own experiences in similar but not identical situations. Moderator, in our 2015 paper entitled Test of Standards in Anguilla, Is It Fit for Purpose? Gishard informs us of the purposes of the National Test of Standards. They aim to encourage students to excel by becoming more attentive and committing to improving their performance, evaluate and monitor levels of exposure to the established curriculum, provide low performers with access to remediation programs, and inform placement in secondary school. Moderator, we have established the Test of Standards as a diagnostic tool. We have just discussed the intended uses of this tool. All persons involved in the use of this tool should at least have a basic understanding of how this tool should function as well as its intended effects. But moderator, from the outside looking in, it seems to many of us like we are using a screwdriver to pound in nails. In order for all of the objectives to be achieved as shared by Gishard, it requires that information is passed from the Department of Education to schools, to teachers, and on to students and parents in an accurate, clear, and efficient way so that student development is supported. A 2017 Dutch study by Hofstad, Den Otter, and company found that, quote, the desired uses for test results was not the same as actual use, and that this did not provide meaningful advantages for students. They did this study because of the growing global concern that standardized tests were not achieving what they were designed to do. This study also found that because different persons involved in the testing needed the information to be used in different ways, test data from one standardized assessment was not enough to support the learning needs of students. We are proposing that we propose that the way the Test of Standards is handled in reality does not match the way it is intended to be used. Moderator, when a tool has been misused, especially over time, this negatively affects the tool's ability to achieve what the tool was designed for. Misuse can damage the tool and mislead others to how it should be used. The damage caused can outweigh the benefits, causing the use of the tool to be less advantageous, unhelpful, having little good effect. Moderator, our opponents would have you believe that misusing the national tester standards does not make it being useless. At Valley Primary School, we are reasonable, and so we agree. But we're not here to debate whether the national tester standards has ever been or could ever be useful. We are proposing with the passage of time that continuous misuse of the tester standard has led us to a point where the negative effects outweigh its ability to provide reasonable advantages to all who must use it, but most importantly, the students. Moderator, one of the most glaring examples of misuse is the primary school awards, where for more than a decade, until 2019, the top 5 performers in the 4 core subject areas were awarded based on their tester standards results. It is important to note that in many cases, one student might have received awards for more than one subject area, so approximately 15% or less out of more than 300 or 400 students receive awards. This can have the negative effect of making the tester standards less about improving and supporting learning and more about celebrating achievement, while ignoring the majority of students who also took the same test. Where's the advantage, helpfulness, or good effect in that, moderator? The fact that we have effectively replaced the tester standards at grade 6 with the CPEA also suggests that one of the purposes for tester standards that Gishard sets out is now void, because we are using CPEA to determine the placement in bands when entering the Albina Lake Hodge Comprehensive School. Let's also consider that students from other countries coming to Anguilla do not sit the tester standards and are still able to be placed in the banding system at high school. Take all the above into consideration, Madam Moderator. How can we realistically stand here and say that the national tester standards, a diagnostic tool, continues to be advantageous, helpful, or of good effect? You tell me, moderator. The proposition rests for no. Thank you.
Thank you to the first speaker of the proposition, Mr. Jaden Reese. He spoke for a time of 6 minutes and 10 seconds. Now we invite the first speaker of the opposition, Ms. Ebony Hodge.
Good evening, honorable guests, supporters, esteemed judges, and valued moderator. This evening, my colleague and I will take this opportunity to explain why we strongly oppose the MOOT. National Test of Standards have outlived their usefulness. In order to fully support our position this evening, we will define a number of key terms that are important to understand the MOOT. According to the Glossary of Education Reform, a standardized test is any form of test that requires all test takers to answer the same questions from a common bank of questions in the same way. It is then scored in a standard or consistent manner, which makes it possible to compare the relative performance of individual students or groups of students. National Test of Standards are standardized tests that Anguilla's Department of Education has administered to primary level students in grades 3, 5, and 6 for the last 30 years. That means I, my colleague, and our opponents will do tests of standards at some point. And you probably did it too, Madam Moderator. According to the Oxford Dictionary, outlive means to continue to exist after something else has ended or disappeared. The term usefulness is defined by dictionary.com as serving some purpose, advantageous, or helpful. Essentially, the mood is saying that there is no longer any purpose for test of standards. There is no way I can agree. Madam Moderator, our opposition to this mood is based on 4 premises. I will address the following points. 1, data from test of standards reveal students' academic levels and highlight students who require additional assistance. 2, test of standards holds teachers and the education system accountable. My colleague will address the following points. 1, test of standards increase the likelihood of success in adulthood, and 2, the moot is too absolute to support the proposition's case. The opposition firmly advances the argument that tests of standards are still useful. In fact, these tests are critical data collection tools to measure and evaluate student performance. However, success of this tool is largely dependent on how the data gained is used. Data from test of standards offer important information on students' academic level and helps teachers and other assessors to pinpoint gaps and weaknesses in students early. Once identified, the teacher is better able to offer students unique teaching programs and resources to meet them at their level. Lisa Tennell, MED, states, and I quote, "The objective of standardized tests is to set a baseline for comparison." She further argues that national assessments help our school system compare students from varied backgrounds because all students take the same tests. Tests taken in different schools may vary considerably across different education departments, and it becomes easier to evaluate and score individuals when they are measured against a common standard, unquote. Madam Moderator, yes, it is accurate that we are not all the same, and some of us require unique teaching tools and resources. Test of standards provide teachers with valuable data that will help them to tailor learning to our needs. Even Chief Education Officer, Mr. Brent Romney agrees. Mr. Romney stated, and I quote, "Our solemn responsibility is to deliver an education service that is tailor-made to the needs of our children." The annual test of standards measures our progress against this goal. It provides vital and actionable data on the performance of our children against established standards across the 4 core subject areas, unquote. Ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. Those are not my words. Those are the words of our current top educator on the island. Test of standards has stood the test of time, and it is as relevant and useful today as it was 30 years ago. Madam Moderator, not only is data from test of standards beneficial in highlighting the needs of our students, but it can also be used to hold teachers and the education system accountable. Tests of standards serve as an additional measurement for the performance of teachers. They help to ensure that teachers are focused on covering curriculum material so that their students are prepared for exams. Tests of standards also help to avoid a consistent measure across classrooms and schools, which gives the Department of Education information on class, school, and teacher performance. This data is expected to help the Ministry of Education evaluate the Department of Education. Additionally, the data provided gives information on class, primary school students across the entire island. Teachers are better able to measure the performance, success of students against a larger grouping of students. Which is why Mr. Romney also said, and I quote, "It shines a light on our achievements as an education system and identifies learning gaps or areas of increased focus," unquote. Listening audience, test of standards might be old, tested and true, but our opponents cannot expect us to believe that just because it is old, it no longer serves a purpose, or is no longer advantageous, or is no longer helpful. The fact of the matter is that tests of standards have not outlived their usefulness. Thank you.
Permit me to correct an error on my part. The first speaker of the proposition, Mr. Jaden Reese, actually spoke for a time of 8 minutes and 10 seconds. 8 minutes. Thank you to our first speaker of the opposition, Ms. Ebony Hodge, and she spoke for a time of 7 minutes and 8 seconds. 7 minutes and 8 seconds. We now invite to the lectern the second speaker, the seconder of the proposition, Ms. Amaya Reed.
Moderator, learned judges, esteemed opponents, listening audience, good evening. Tonight, I rise to support my able partner in proposing the moot. The National Test of Standards has outlived its usefulness. Moderator, my task this evening is to remind you of the persons at the center of this topic, the students. We will explore the impact of the National Test of Standards on the overall well-being and holistic development of students. I am certain, moderator, that you, the judges, and this attentive audience can recall that my partner stated in his presentation that the Test of Standards is considered by researchers as a, quote, high-stakes examination, unquote. Moderator, I can testify to feeling those pesky butterflies fluttering the anxiety around my stomach before a test. What if I fail? What if I don't get a good grade? What will my parents, teachers, or classmates think about me? All of these questions rattle around in my mind, and I have to learn to silence them and do my best so that I can get a good grade. Hold up, there's a problem here. My focus is on getting a good grade, rather than showing my teacher what I know, and then looking forward to feedback on my weak areas and meaningful ways I can improve on them. This is the picture that is painted with high-stakes exams, where the student's result or achievement is often more important or valuable to us than the learning process itself. Javiera Salmon points out several issues with standardized testing in her March 2022 article published in Henchinger Report. After interviewing experts in the field of education, she discusses that standardized exams do not help to develop skills in solving real-world problems in real time. She also points out that this is because they do not do enough to measure and support critical thinking skills. In an article published by Financial Times in January 2022, Sarah Jane Blakemore, a Cambridge University neuroscientist, argues that, quote, standardized exams exaggerate stress and anxiety at a time when youngsters' brains are still evolving. Madam Moderator, we need to reassess whether high intensity, high stakes national exams are still the optimal way to assess the academic achievements of a developing young person. Unquote. Even our own local expert, Gishard, in her 2015 research, reinforces that high-stakes exams, aka test of standards, can have negative effects on students' self-esteem, self-worth, and physical health, especially if they are worried about failure. She goes on to say that this is caused by, quote, undue stress and anxiety. Madam Moderator, failure is an important part of learning. And if we continue developing negative attitudes towards failure, we will never want to try anything. As young people, it is important that we are taught how to deal with failure in a constructive way so that it doesn't cripple us in life. All of this is discussed in Zhang's 2022 research article published in Frontiers in Psychology. Our clever opponents may try to separate the attitudes of adults and the pressure they place on children from the national test of standards. They may try to say that these things have nothing to do with each other. But, Moderator, this thing is a very tangled web, and the knots won't come loose so easily. But, Moderator, at the center of this web sits the national test of standards and all sorts of negative responses. Pressure to push for good grades, pressure to push for awards, pressure to be a band one, pressure to avoid failure. All of it has been successfully conditioned over time. Have you ever heard of Pavlov and his dog? Over time, the dog learned to associate with the sound of the bell with the high likelihood that the meat would appear. And so, the dog's mouth would drool at the sound of the bell long before the meat appeared. The dog was conditioned to respond to the bell in the same way he responded to the meat. Test of standards is the bell. Moderator, we have been conditioned to associate high-pressure situations, expectations of awards, the rush to put our children into extra classes, and so much more with the ringing of the test of standards bell. We have been conditioned to respond to test of standards in a way that focuses on achievement and good grades instead of focusing on successful learning experiences. We have demonstrated that standardized testing negatively impacts student holistic development in key areas like critical thinking, and that our minds, bodies, and spirits are troubled by the undue stress and anxiety these tests bring with them. Tell me, Madam Moderator, does any of this sound advantageous, helpful, or of any good effect to you? The proposition rests.
Thank you to the seconder of the proposition, Ms. Amaya Reed. She spoke for a time of 6 minutes and 12 seconds. We'll now have our second speaker of the opposition, Ms. Jendai Linton.
Yeah, I'm good with that. I'm good. Madam Moderator, judges, opponents, and audience, a pleasant good evening. My colleague has graciously provided a compelling argument against the moot test of standards have outlived their usefulness. She has shown how test of standards provide important data that helps teachers provide tailored teaching to students and holds teachers and education officials accountable.
These points alone prove without a shadow of a doubt that there is still some purpose for test of standards. But permit me to add 2 final supporting points. Test of standards can be used as a tool to prepare young persons for success in secondary school, college, and in their employment. While this debate is focused on standardized testing at the primary school level, the truth is standardized testing occurs well beyond primary school. In fact, persons who endeavor to become doctors, lawyers, and engineers are often required to undertake standardized tests to acquire licenses to practice within their field. Familiarizing them with standardized testing from a young age will certainly increase their chances of success later in life. The use of these tests has introduced many scholars to the world in these and other fields, which have led to groundbreaking developments all over the world. Why move away from a tool that has been tried and tested and benefited the world in so many ways? Furthermore, standardized tests not only provide familiarization with a method of testing that can lead to future success, but also instills in the student the discipline needed to attain success. Dan Goldhaber, PhD, Director of the Center for Analysis of Longitudinal Data in Education Research, and Umed Ozek, PhD, Senior Researcher at the American Institutes for Research, summarized, students who score 1 standard deviation higher on math tests at the end of high school have been shown to earn 12% more annually, or $3,600 for each year of work life in 2001. So how does standardized testing help persons achieve this? Well, according to Ellen Riordan, Senior Communications Professional at Actively Learn, considerable research suggests that interventions that help students improve test scores are linked to better adult outcomes, such as college attendance, higher incomes, and the avoidance of risky behaviors. In other words, creating learning environments that lead to higher test scores is also likely to improve students' long-term success in college and beyond. So, Madam Moderator, test of standards makes a lot of dollars and cents. Madam Moderator, let me finally address the absolute nature of this moot. The moot doesn't say that national test of standards have disadvantages or weaknesses. It says there is no longer any use for this tool. The moot did not say we should reduce our reliance on it as a tool or that it needs to be modified to incorporate modern-day education. The moot says it has outlived its usefulness, which is another way of saying that tests of standards serve no purpose. None at all. We reject this wholeheartedly. I cannot stand here this evening and agree that tests of standards have no use when standardized testing continues to be used all over the world as a measurement and evaluation tool. Just last week, I visited my favorite dentist. She was required to do many standardized tests in order to qualify as a dentist. You know who else had to complete standardized testing? My friend's sister, who is now a preschool teacher, and my aunt, who is a trained financial expert. These and so many others are beneficially contributing to our Anguillan community. And you know what, Madam Moderator? I also want to contribute to our society as an entrepreneur, and I want to be prepared to take whatever standardized testing is required to achieve this goal. But don't take my word for it, Madam Moderator. Our teachers also agree. Teacher Akila Thompson, a primary school teacher of 18 years, stated, and I quote, "Test of standards are still important for us to group our students. We have a chance to see where their weaknesses are and try new teaching techniques." Madam Moderator, teachers and students can all agree that there are still some good uses for tests of standards. Tests of standards continue to help the education department classify students in groups and programs that are best fit for their knowledge level. How then can one argue that there is no use for it? Not even one use, Madam Moderator? Madam Moderator, the opposition strongly assert that there is still a usefulness for tests of standards. The use of national tests of standards helps students to develop a more structured and disciplined approach to learning and life. These skills are then further developed as students progress through their academic careers and into adulthood. Madam Moderator, in the words of latest Exodus HD, if you're saying it, say it with your chest. If you ask me if test of standards are still useful, I will borrow the words of latest one more time. Yeah, yeah, yeah. My colleague and I strongly oppose the move. National test of standards have outlived their usefulness. Madam Moderator, I rest my case.
Thank you to our seconder for the opposition, Ms. Jen Dai Linton. She spoke for a time of 5 minutes and 16 seconds. So we are at the end of round one, meaning that our next segment will be rebuttals. I will now ask the timekeeper to put on her clock a time of 5 minutes, 15 minutes, 5 minutes, and during this time, the teams will discuss and organize their rebuttals. Audience, a reminder to you to please remain absolutely quiet during this time period. Thank you. We have 2 minutes left, and we are asking the audience to please, please be quiet. You're free to leave the auditorium if you have something that you need to say, but please be quiet. All right, for the rebuttal segment, we will start with the opposition. So at this time, we ask the team to send their speaker for the rebuttal. So just as a reminder, please identify 2 points from your opponent's argument, and you will say what you do not agree with and say why you don't agree.
Madam Moderator, listening audience, judges, greetings again from the opposition team. My colleague and I carefully listened to the arguments presented by the opponents, and we are now even more resolute in our opposition to the moot. National tests of standards have outlived their usefulness. I will address the point raised by the first speaker of the proposition when they stated, the opponents stated that tests of standards has had negative impacts, but Madam Moderator, many successful people today are as a result of standardized testing. Madam Moderator, permit me a chance to quote latest from Exodus HG, and I quote, "When you're coming to me, you better come straight." As my colleague stated, the moot did not say test of standards needs to be modified or modernized. The moot did not say that tests of standards are perfect or that we need to reduce our reliance on it. The moot says it has outlived its usefulness, that it is an entirely different story altogether, and that is where our opponent's argument completely falls apart. Madam Moderator, the second speaker of the proposition also stated, test of standards also gives students unneeded stress and anxiety, but stress and anxiety comes along with every test you take in school. Madam Moderator, the first comb was invented over 5,000 years ago before Christ. And Madam Moderator, I just used a comb this evening to get ready for this debate. Now I'm sure combs have been changed, modified, or modernized, but combs are still useful to this day. The point I am making is not because something is old means that it is no longer useful. And test of standards is old, but my opponents have failed to prove that it is no longer useful. The opposition rests.
Thank you to the opposition for their rebuttal. Ms. Ebony Hodge spoke for a time of 2 minutes and 21 seconds. We invite the proposition speaker to now make their presentation. And again, a reminder, you're just stating 2 points from your opponent's argument and saying what you don't agree with and why.
Moderator, we return to propose the moot. The National Test of Standards has outlived its usefulness. In our opposition debate, they stated that the test of standards continues to be useful around the world. We don't agree with this point, and here is why. We argued earlier that information to improve learning has to go through so many levels and layers to reach the students. The Dutch study we mentioned earlier supports that information needed isn't always used in the way it is expected to be used, and that is a global issue with standardized exams, not just in Anguilla. They also stated that test of standards is still important to review student skills. We have demonstrated that standardized exams do not develop the kinds of skills, especially critical thinking skills, due to stress and anxiety. The proposition rests their case. Thank you.
Thank you to the proposition for their rebuttal. Mr. Jaden Reese spoke for a time of 1 minute and 9 seconds. At this time, we've reached to the end of our debate, so please give our presenters a round of applause. The judges will now retire to deliberate. And thank you to our timekeeper, Ms. Shana Richardson. I think you could use the bathroom now. You guys want to use the bathroom? You want to use the bathroom? But make sure that you come back. By way of announcement, we're back tomorrow night for our second debate, the proposition is Alwyn Allison Primary and our opposition, Morris Vanterpool Primary. The moot for that debate: corporal punishment should return as a disciplinary option for primary school teachers in Anguilla. Corporal punishment should return as a disciplinary option for primary school teachers in Anguilla. So while we wait for our judges to return, we are going to have a bit of a discussion. There's a mic right there, sort of to the center, Exhibit A. So you can step up to the mic and contribute any of your thoughts on tonight's moot. The only thing that I ask is for you to remain neutral in terms of your support or judgment for any of the teams. We are leaving the critique to the judges, but you are free to commend the presenters. But our moot, as a reminder, states that the national tests of standards have outlived their usefulness. So we have a lot of teachers, students, administrators in here. What do you think of tonight's moot? It doesn't matter what school you are supporting. We are speaking now on your opinion of the moot. The national tests of standards have outlived their usefulness. I really hope that I don't have to be one of those moderators to call people by name to get an opinion. So let's hear from some of our students first. What do you think of the National Test of Standards? Any student who has taken Test of Standards before, let me see by a raise of hand. If you have taken the Test of Standards before, whether in grade 3, 5, or 6, raise your hand. So no one is in grade 4? No fourth graders in here today? Any sixth graders? So you did, but you didn't hear my instructions just now? Did you do? Yeah, but you didn't do one in grade 5? Oh, so you guys can't even relate. Oh my. The high schoolers. Anyone in first farm? But you're leaving. We want your opinion. What do you feel about the test of standards? The mic is right over there. Don't be shy. Well, you can't be shy. She said it was lovely? Was that sarcastic? Okay. All right. Any other first farmers? Okay. Teachers? If you teach, even if you teach high school, primary school, high school, even if you don't teach a grade that is a test of standard year, you should have an opinion. This is a tough crowd. Okay, so let me recall some of the points that I heard tonight. There was some claims from both the proposition and opposition of what sources said are the benefits of tests of standards. So one that I heard is that it encourages students to excel. Anyone agrees or disagrees by the show of hand? Can't hear. Disagree? You disagree that it encourages students to excel? So why don't you step on down to the mic and tell us why you disagree? You want me to beg? Why disagree? Great, thank you. Please welcome her as she approaches the mic. Woo!
I might probably get in trouble for this, but I'm going to say it anyway. I've taught for a number of years, and I have particularly taught years 1 and 2 at Campus B. And I normally teach the band 1s, predominantly. Sometimes I would have the band 2 students. And it stuns me completely when I look at my students sometimes and I give them assessments or ask them what I feel are basic questions, and they aren't able to answer them effectively or correctly. And these are students who would have been getting awards at the National Test Standards ceremony, and I cannot in my class ever see the excellence that they are praised for at these awards being manifested in my class. And it begs the question, are we teaching them to pass an exam, are we teaching them to excel? Those are two very different questions. And I find that unless we go back in and evaluate the effectiveness of that examination, we are unable to serve our students better, especially when they get to years 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. I'm going to give an example. Students have been exposed to social studies topics such as ethnic groups, correct? And can I tell you that from primary school, they're exposed to it. First farm, they're exposed to it. Second farm, they're exposed to it. If they go on to do CSEC social studies, they are exposed to it. And when they get to Caribbean studies in sixth farm, they can't remember, understand, or answer any questions regarding the same topic. Something is seriously wrong with that. So I can't stand here and I cannot attest that the test of standards encourages students to excel. It, in my opinion, encourages them to pass a test but retain very little, and they're unable to transfer information and knowledge.
Thank you for your contribution. Anyone else? I hear some cheering, so that means there are some opinions, some agreements. Anyone else wants to approach the mic and share their thoughts? All right.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I must say that this was a great debate. I want to commend the students for their bravery, their wealth of knowledge, and the ability to present themselves in a manner. If they can do this at this young age, then we do know that Anguilla is in a good place. And so I want to compliment and commend the ACC for initiating this, Saul and the others for sponsoring, and certainly for the primary schools, the students, the parents, the teachers for participating in this. I must say that, you know, when we went to high school, it's been an old dinosaur, we did the common entrance exam, which, you know, I guess would be our test of standards at that time. And I thought that it really, you studied so that you could pass an exam. And that seems to be how things are at every level. So I must say that I don't think that the test has outlived its usefulness, but certainly we should be changing the, some aspects of it so that it allows critical thinking, better analysis, rather than just memorizing and you know, being able to get a good grade and get an award. Certainly, its usefulness in determining bands. As someone said, there's a new way of evaluating that. That's also important. But I must say that, you know, the content of it, the mood, is not as important to me as the ability of these young minds to dissect the mood and to present it in such a clear manner that they have impressed me, that they have, they know what they're doing, they have the ability to debate and the ability to excel and at this level and as they go throughout the different stages. So again, I want to commend the college and commend the schools, commend all the ones who have helped to make this possible. And I look forward to things heating up when Vivian Vanderpool Primary School gets up there. Thank you.
Thank you to our Honorable Premier for your contribution. All right, so I heard a bit of a comparison happening there with the common entrance exam and test of standards. I'm not sure if we have any persons who would have had experience with both. Maybe you took common entrance and now you teach test of standards. Anybody can speak on the differences of such, if the students are motivated in another way. I believe back then that would have determined if you could even enter high school to begin with. I'm correct? So you could not even enter high school if you did not pass your common entrance exam. Would that be a part of maybe the issue with students feeling more motivated to excel beyond the exam? Okay, great. We're excited to hear your opinion on that. Or not. Okay, so we have some more students who rejoined. Anyone wants to speak? Oh, great. Thank you.
Good night, everyone. I want to first commend the students on a job well done. I think all of the presentations this evening were very, very impressive, and I think we have a great future to look forward to our future Leeward Islands debating competition members. So that is the first thing I want to start off with. With the Anguilla Community College, I think that the moot was a very pointed and timely moot, because we are existing in a reality whereby test of standards has not been done at our primary schools since COVID-19. And that is an active challenge in terms of how do we assess our students and how do we assess their critical thinking skills, how do we assess their basic competencies, how do we measure, and then how do we use that data for the development of our students going forward. And so to those points, I think that the moot was a very good moot. I think that the Department and Ministry of Education have a lot of work to do given by our students in terms of assessing our standardized tests. It is something that actually all ministries of education across the region and globally are doing at the moment. They are assessing standardized examinations and their impact on students' development. So it is, again, really timely for us to have this discussion. I have some personal views. I have some students who met me outside and told me to tell the audience that they hate test of standards. But we're gonna encourage them to keep an open mind, of course. But that is a part of the debate. It raises those feelings that people have about the examination, whether or not they think something is better suited to meeting their needs, whether or not teachers feel as though that specific test is helping them in differentiating between different students within a classroom setting. And so we really do look forward to these engagements, specifically from the viewpoint of the students, because we can say what we would like to see from the ministry's perspective, but the students are a very critical part of how we structure these examinations. So I want to thank the students again for debating this topic so ably, and I look forward to the following debates. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Good night, everyone. Thank you very much for supporting this debate, a joint effort between the Anguilla Community College and the Ministry of Education. Now, I want to just say a word about standardized tests. Standardized tests, the effects of it can be really challenging. We used to call it the screaming test. You call it screaming or screening? I think it was screening, but we ended up screaming. Yes, so the screaming test. The effects of the screaming test sometimes end up with people being streamed and being categorized as this particular stream. And very often, some students might be a late bloomer, and that can have some negative effects on students on the long term. Sometimes people are not really cut out to really function with these standardized tests the way they are set up. And we know that United States and many other countries have moved away from tests to be able to place students in school, because very often students can develop much better if they are not under these kind of tough testing standards. So I think we have to be very careful on continuing with the standardized tests. Maybe it is time to really consider different aspects. I know the minister said, boy, not yet. But we are saying that maybe it's time to stop and think about other ways of moving forward rather than using what I would term again the screaming test, because of its detrimental effect in the long term on a large percentage of students. I've taken a stance. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I just wanted to share something very quickly, and this is coming fresh out of a meeting of CARICOM ministers of education across the region. And in that meeting, what we were discussing was these summative tests, these tests that are very determinative. And I think it is very reflective of a conversation about standardized tests, because CXC as a examining body is now saying that they want to move away from the standardized model to a progressive modality assessment. So I think that should tell you that people are looking very critically at standardized tests, because it's not necessarily achieving what it was set out to do. So now they're trying to change the tool so that within the tool itself, it is doing what we want to achieve. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention, because that forms a part of the global and the regional outlook on standardized tests in general.
Thank you. So we'd really love to hear from some students still, those who were brave enough to approach our Minister of Education and say that you hate tests of standards. Where are you now? What is your opinion?
Good evening to everybody.
Good evening.
I'm a past student, not a student. I'd like to congratulate the College and Soil, first of all, for really, Education Department, for introducing debating at primary level, because, it would more prepare them for when they reach to high school. You can have a more progressive and more boisterous now debating team for representing the island, because we will be well prepared from at this level. Anguilla has always been and will always be a natural island. It always needs that development now to be added to it. And I congratulate the students for presenting themselves well, because this age, they tend to be very scared for things like this, not that other technological part, like the computer striking and things like that. But really congratulate them for a job well done. As the Premier said, I come up through the entrance exam sitting, which has the same effect as the tester standard, because we will only focus on just passing the test, and that's it. So we need to be tweaking something somewhere to really make it that I want to do and continue and develop on what is started. And the primary level, for me personally, I think the curriculum is kind of heavy at primary school. SBA is done in 3rd grade? Wow, that is a lot of stuff. And even when they get to high school, they practically more or less dream because you have done it all in primary school. So we need like how to tweak it somewhere to bring it that when leaving primary school, that excitement, want to be, will become at secondary level because trust me, right now I am preparing a SBA for a 3rd grader for Wednesday. And the child don't have a clue. All the child knows that they're going to receive it and present it to the teacher, and the teacher can say nice. So we need somehow we just need to get that primary level that it don't be too burdensome to train them for secondary level.
Thank you. Okay, thank you. We had a little bit of a slow start to our discussion, but I'm so glad that we had lots and lots of contribution, and we have the right persons in the room tonight to make some things happen, lots of things to consider. So at this time, we will ask the best speaker judge to come to the stage and share with us her thoughts and the announcement of the best speaker for tonight.
Just for clarification, because some person are thinking I'm thinking 3rd grade as in high school. No, I'm talking about grade 3. I guess I didn't use the right thing, but it's grade 3 I'm talking about in terms of the SBA. But the whole general thing on primary school.
Got it, thank you. Okay, so we'll have our best speaker judge, Ms. Susan Hodge, to present her findings. Please welcome her.
And yes, I do need to use the podium. Good evening, everyone. The protocol has already been established, and I just want to say to Dana that it was Gloucestershire. What an enjoyable evening. These debaters were wonderful, so give them all a round of applause. Anyone who knows me knows that I love to speak. And many questioned my reasoning for joining the Anguilla Toastmasters Club. I don't like to speak off the cuff. I can prepare a speech and deliver it, but you know when people come and ask you that question and you want to have something really good to say and it doesn't come out? But I joined because communication and leadership skills are important. Tonight, I witnessed some young speakers of whom I stand in awe. Their age was not apparent in the way they presented their cases. I can only hope when they reach my age, they will be speaking on a global stage, giving TED Talks around the world. The 4 exceptional young speakers this evening showed their passion for their arguments, although they had not been through test of standards themselves. My job this evening was to assess their clarity and audibility, persuasiveness, fluency, eye contact, and body language, among other criteria. Before I give them the results, do you want to know my opinion on standardized tests? And I want to commend every speaker here because you all did exceptionally well. But one person just edged you out, and I'd like to say that Miss Amaya Reed was, in my opinion, the best speaker this evening. Thank you.
Congratulations to Miss Amaya for her successful attainment of Best Speaker for tonight's debate. Now, also heavily anticipated, we have the results for the winning debate for tonight. Well, overall debate, but you want to know who won. So I won't delay. I invite the head judge, Mr. Stanley Reed, to share the scores for tonight's debate.
Good evening, everyone. I too adopt the protocol previously established, and I would like to immediately associate myself, and I think I can take the liberty of saying the other judges would do the same, with the comments made by Ms. Susan Hodge in relation to the performance of these young people on stage this evening. We were extremely impressed by their performance. They exhibited a level of confidence beyond their years. There are many persons who would be hesitant to come to this spot, and they came and they behaved as if they belonged. So I want to congratulate all of you for your performance here this evening. As with all things, there can only be one team winning, but you can all feel that you conducted yourselves well and did your schools proud. It is obvious that attention was paid to the criteria because you played to the criteria in your delivery. And that, I think, shows that there should be some commendation for the coaches as well, because they obviously did a very good job with the students. So our commendations to them as well. We thought that persons were very good in their communication. They paid attention to their audience. They commanded the audience attention, the body language, the posture, and the gestures were all well within moderation and control, and we admired that. In terms of content, it was obvious that persons had done research, and it was good to see that research was done within the borders of Anguilla as well, because there was quite a bit of reference to Anguilla and to Anguillians and their views in relation to the topic. So again, our commendation for that as well. Obviously, with all things, there's room for improvement, and we expect that with your continued engagement with your coaches, there will be improvement. We would suggest that you pay attention to your speed when speaking. Some of you were a little fast, and your pronunciation and enunciation as well in some instances. But generally, we thought you performed at a very high standard, and we ask that you continue so that you can represent us well when we get back to our Leeward Island debating competition, which hopefully is not too far off. The judges, we were in accord, we are happy to see. The talliers advises us that the total possible score is 465 points. I can advise that the proposition out of that total received a total of 355 points, and the opposition received a total of 390 points, making the opposition the winning team this evening. Congratulations.
It's always great to see that sportsmanship. Thank you so much to the two teams for a wonderful, wonderful job. I do not envy the judges at all. So that is it for tonight's debate. Thank you so much for coming out. Great job again to our debaters. Just a reminder that tomorrow we are back at 7 p.m. It won't be as long because we'll get straight into the debate. Morris Vanterpool versus Alwyn Allison Primary, and the moot corporal punishment should return as a disciplinary option for primary school teachers in Anguilla. Thank you.